There's no place for a poor high school grad here.
When I attended a networking event hosted by a client, I was told by a former classmate, a company president's daughter, Samantha, to leave the venue. My stretched patience finally snapped. In front of a crowd, fed up with Samantha's insults directed at me, I simply said before I left, "Understood." As I was about to leave the event, a person with a pale face appeared before me. As a result, Samantha ended up losing her job and family, becoming destitute. My name is Kevin Carter, and I'm 35 years old. I work at Carter Foods as an executive. We're a company that handles a variety of foods, from processed products to bottled water, and we're committed to product development. Due to family issues, I couldn't continue to college and started working at Carter Foods after high school graduation. I've been working for 20 years, and I still find my job enjoyable. In my private life, I married my wife, Emily, whom I met through an acquaintance 2 years ago. We don't have kids yet, but hopefully, in time. I was leading a contented life both at work and at home, but one day I ran into a high school classmate, and that encounter led to an unbelievable turn of events. Ever since I was a kid, I loved researching various things and dreamed of becoming a researcher. Because of that, I studied diligently from elementary school, always maintaining top grades. However, when I was in high school, my mother ran off with her affair partner, leaving my father and me behind. The shock of her leaving drove my father to alcoholism, and he was in and out of hospitals, unable to work. Naturally, college was out of the question for me. My uncle, my dad's brother, supported us with living expenses, so we managed to get by, but I couldn't ask him to cover tuition, so I gave up on college. My uncle told me not to worry, but I couldn't bring myself to depend on him, so I decided to work right after graduating from high school and joined the current company. Back then, it was rare for someone not to go to college, and the fact that I, the top of my class, wasn't going became a hot topic. That's when Samantha, a prominent figure in the class, said to me,
Because you're poor, you're not going to college, right? High school grad, seriously, your life is pretty much over. You've got a dark future ahead.
For some reason, Samantha saw me as an adversary, taunting me every time she saw me. Probably because her father was a company president and she was rich, she found it amusing to mock me for being poor. I thought it was pointless to engage with her, so I kept ignoring her, which she probably didn't like. So, I was teased for being poor all the way until graduation. At the time, not being able to go to college was hard, and her words always made me feel bad. But looking back on it now, I think it was good to end up in such a perfect job even with just a high school diploma. One afternoon, I went with a junior colleague to the Matthews Group for a business negotiation about a new product. While waiting for the representative in the lobby after checking in at the reception, someone called out from behind me,
Isn't that Kevin? No way. You haven't changed at all.
When I turned around, there stood a woman. As I wondered who it was, her face gradually jogged my memory. It was Samantha, my former high school classmate. As soon as she saw me, she started with the pleasantries as if reminiscing, but then quickly began mocking me just like the old days.
What's a lowly high school grad doing here? You couldn't have landed a job at any significant company, could you?
While I was amazed that she hadn't changed at all even as an adult, I asked Samantha if she worked for the Matthews Group.
Well, of course, my dad's the president of the Matthews Group. That makes me the daughter of the president of a top company.
Samantha boasted high and mighty that she was going to be the next president of this company. When I responded with disinterest, she seemed a bit miffed.
As unpleasant as ever. There's no way our company would deal with someone who hires people like you. I'm not being mean, but you'd be better off going home.
Adding that it was a waste of time, Samantha left the company and went somewhere else. She had called me unpleasant, but I thought she was quite the nasty piece herself. When the representative arrived, I decided to proceed to the negotiation. After successfully concluding the negotiation, I sent my subordinate home and returned to the company for the remaining work. While working quietly at the office, my smartphone notification went off. Checking my phone, I had received a direct message on social media. Thinking it was unusual, I checked it, and it was from Samantha. She probably tracked down my account through mutual contacts or friends. Wondering what she wanted, I saw the message was mocking me. I was amazed that she would go as far as to harass me through social media. Thinking it was pointless to engage, I decided to thoroughly ignore Samantha's messages. Then, realizing she was being ignored, she started sending messages and calls through the messaging app, maybe getting my contact from a classmate who knew me. I was annoyed at myself for having the auto-ed feature on. The notification sound was irritating, and she kept sending messages despite me not responding at all. It didn't stop even when I got home, and my phone kept ringing even during dinner with Emily. Emily must have thought it was odd and asked if something happened. So, I told her about today's events and that it had been going on like this for a while.
She sounds like a piece of work. You can't go silent mode because of work, right? Why don't you just turn off notifications for her? If you engage, it might just get worse.
Following Emily's advice, I turned off notifications for Samantha's contact. After that, I wasn't troubled by notification sounds anymore.
By the way, you're going to the networking event too, right, Kevin?
Yo, the chairman can't make it, so I'm planning to go alone. You're going too, right, Emily?
Of course. I even got a new dress for it. Take a look.
Emily showed me the dress with excitement. It was a simple design that suited her well, and I was looking forward to seeing her in it at the event. Messages from Samantha have been coming non-stop since then, but turning off notifications means I'm not bothered by them anymore. However, I didn't read them, thinking it'd just get worse if she knew I've seen them. They're probably full of mockery anyway. I'm tormented by regret for having met Samantha at that time, at that place. Time has passed, and the day of the networking event has arrived. I was more nervous than usual at this gathering of various companies. My company was invited too, and the chairman was supposed to attend, but due to work commitments, I ended up going alone. As I entered the venue and looked around, I recognized someone familiar. They seemed to notice me too and waved over enthusiastically. Just as I was about to head their way, a woman stood in my path. What? Why? It was Samantha who appeared before me. Then, I remembered something. Today's event was hosted by the president of the Matthews Group. Of course, as the president's daughter, Samantha would be there, and my mood instantly dropped.
After all this time ignoring me, Who do you think you are? And why are you even here? How did you sneak in?
Samantha glared at me, visibly irritated. She must be pretty upset that I've been ignoring her messages. When I explained that I was invited and attending, Samantha burst out laughing.
As if my dad would never invite a high school grad loser like you. You probably heard about the event and snuck in to save on dinner, right? That's just like something a poor person would do.
Samantha continued to hurl harsh words at me. Even I have my limits. Furious over Samantha's messages and past behavior, I clenched my fists so tightly, trembling with anger.
There's no place for a poor high school grad here.
I had reached my breaking point. In front of everyone, as Samantha directed her insults at me, I simply said, "Understood," and was about to leave when I heard,
"President Kevin."
I saw President Matthews, the president of the Matthews Group, looking pale as he stared at us. He must have witnessed the entire exchange between Samantha and me. He looked like he was about to collapse.
What are you saying, Dad? That this guy is a president? He's just a poor man.
President Matthews interrupted Samantha with a shout.
"Samantha, who do you think you're talking to? Kevin here is the president of Carter Foods, which supplies most of our products. Do you have any idea what would happen to us without Carter Foods products?"
Samantha tried to make excuses, saying, "But the truth is, the Matthews Group runs a nationwide restaurant chain, and our company supplies the food products they sell."
"Aren't you supposed to be part of the executive team? How can you not know this?"
But I just never thought a high school grad from the bottom could be a president. He was so poor in high school.
Indeed, I was admittedly very poor during high school. However, after graduating and joining my uncle's company, Carter Foods, I was able to lead a decent life. My uncle, a bachelor without children, said, "I always thought I'd be a lifelong bachelor. So, I want you to take over the company in the future. Please do your best." He told me this when I joined the company. 3 years after I started working, my father, who had been in and out of the hospital, passed away. After my father's death, my uncle and I underwent an adult adoption, and when I was 25, 10 years ago, I took over the company and became the president.
The high school grad with no prospects.
President Matthews did not miss Samantha's muttering.
"You really don't know anything. Since Kevin took over, they've been developing and launching hit products one after another. There's no other genius like him. Some of the products they supply to us are exclusive to Carter Foods."
After taking over from my uncle, I decided to focus on product development, something I always wanted to do since I wanted to be a researcher. As a result, we have been able to create various hit products, some of which are patented. If those products were no longer supplied, it would be the Matthews Group that would be in trouble.
"Can you take responsibility if your actions cause us to lose the contract?"
Samantha finally seemed to realize she had gone too far and stopped making excuses.
"Kevin, I am deeply sorry for my daughter's extremely rude behavior. Please accept my apologies. I will make sure to speak with her, so please don't let this affect our business."
President Matthews repeatedly apologized to me, but Samantha herself just stood there with a clueless expression. She was only watching her father apologize, showing no sign of thinking she was in the wrong at all. I had no intention of ending the business over this, But even so, her attitude was unacceptable. Despite her father humbling himself for her sake, Samantha herself was unmoved. "Samantha, your father, the president, is going to such lengths to apologize, and you have nothing to say. Aren't you the one at fault here?" I asked incredulously, and Samantha glared at me sharply.
I mean, I didn't know you were the president. If I had known, I wouldn't have done this. It's your fault for not telling me. I'm not in the wrong.
Her refusal to see her own fault, even now, was almost refreshing to me. Her attitude turned President Matthews's face even bluer. "Listen, I've been meaning to ask. Why are you so fixated on me? You did it in high school, and even now as adults, you send messages on social media. What's your intent?" I've always wondered, so I asked Samantha why she's so fixated on me. From the snide remarks during our high school days to the relentless, almost demonic messages she keeps sending through social media, I'm full of questions about what she's aiming for by doing all this. To my surprise, it was President Matthews who reacted more to my words than Samantha, gasping, You've been doing what?" Confronted by her father's shocked expression, Samantha awkwardly confessed. Then, Samantha, looking somewhat sheepish, said, "I mean, I've hated you since high school. Despite being a nerd, you were adored by everyone. I couldn't stand that you were getting more attention than me, even though I'm a president's daughter. It was all just meant to be a bit of harassment." She pointed at me, crying out hysterically. Stunned by such a trivial reason for her actions, I was left speechless.
To think that my own daughter could be so malicious.
President Matthews, perhaps realizing the extent of his daughter's spitefulness, was holding his head. Feeling the negative atmosphere and the stares from around, I knew I couldn't stay at the event any longer. "Mr. Matthews, I'm sorry, but may I be excused for today?" I conveyed my intention to leave to President Matthews. Then, President Matthews said,
"I'm really sorry. I'll come to apologize again later."
President Matthews mentioned like this, looking disappointed. However, Samantha still looked sulky, with a displeased expression on her face. Thinking this just wasn't going to work, I was about to leave the scene when a woman came running up to me.
Mr. Matthews, it seems my husband is leaving, so I'll be heading out as well.
The woman who came over to me was my wife, Emily.
"You are, Emily."
President Matthews's face turned even paler, and he muttered Emily's name under his breath. And Samantha's face, which had been sulky until now, also started to turn pale. Executive Emily Carter, the granddaughter of the chairman of our parent company. They froze upon seeing Emily.
It seems you do know who I am. Mr. Matthews, I haven't introduced him to you. This is Kevin Carter, my husband.
Contrary to the two pale faces, Emily introduced me with a beaming smile. My wife and I don't like standing out, so we invited only close family and friends to our wedding in Bali. After returning home, we didn't hold a wedding reception and only reported our marriage to our companies. So, President Matthews probably didn't expect that I was Emily's husband. Realizing I'm her husband, both President Matthews and Samantha looked back and forth between Emily and me in surprise. Our love story is actually deeply connected to my uncle. At the time, my uncle, who was a CEO, was close friends with the chairman of the Matthews Group's parent company, and he was consulted about the chairman's granddaughter who was still single in her late 20s. When asked if he knew any good matches, my uncle suggested, How about my son? He's 3 years older but a sincere and upstanding young man. He recommended me, over 30 and still single with no girlfriend. The chairman was keen, and before we knew it, discussions between the chairman and my uncle had advanced, and an arranged meeting was set up without our consent. Honestly, both Emily and I were workaholics and not very interested in marriage. But given the business relationship between our companies, we reluctantly agreed to the meeting. Surprisingly, we hit it off despite it being our first encounter. We were amazed at how well we got along. After that, things progressed smoothly, and we moved quickly from dating to marriage. The period from our meeting to marriage was about 6 months. That's how my uncle brought Emily and me together. Moreover, Emily's parents work in different professions and have nothing to do with the Matthews Group. But Emily joined the parent company after graduating from college and is currently working hard as an executive director.
Such a way to speak about my husband, huh? From what I hear, you didn't like him because he was more popular. To harass someone for such reason. How childish can you be?
Well, that's...
Samantha, confronted by Emily, was pale and seemed unable to find the words to excuse herself.
You haven't shown any sign of apologizing up till now. If you're thinking of excuses, maybe there's something else you should be doing. To think such a person is the future president of a subsidiary. We're really being taken lightly, huh?
With her last words possibly directed at President Matthews, Emily flashed a defiant smile towards him. Like a frog under the glare of a snake, President Matthews began to sweat profusely from his forehead and started shaking uncontrollably.
I'm terribly sorry. I had no idea Kevin was your husband. My deepest apologies.
My husband has nothing to do with this. Mr. Matthews, your daughter's behavior is unreasonable. She cannot be recognized as a candidate for future president.
Emily's stern words made President Matthews tremble in his apologies, as if he was about to prostrate himself on the spot. But Samantha stood there with a pale face, still not uttering a word of apology. Perhaps exasperated by Samantha's attitude, Emily sighed deeply and said, "Even in this situation, not a word of apology, ho, understood. We'll hold a meeting to discuss the future, taking into account the issue of the next president."
What? You can't?
Mr. Matthews, depending on how things go, a dismissal from your position is very much a possibility. So please keep that in mind, okay?
After dropping this bombshell on the Matthewses, she turned to me with her usual adorable face, suggested we leave, and linked arms with me to exit the venue. I couldn't help but glance back at the Matthewses. President Matthews had collapsed on the floor, looking utterly devastated. Meanwhile, Samantha seemed to finally grasp her predicament, exclaiming, "Why me, the president's daughter? This is ridiculous." She was ranting hysterically. To think she still couldn't see herself as at fault. I bid farewell to the venue and left with Emily. Afterward, I heard the social gathering was cancelled. Indeed, continuing under those circumstances would have been impossible. A few days after the commotion, President Matthews visited our company to apologize, and that's when I heard the aftermath. A meeting was held concerning the incident, but somehow the discussion about dismissing President Matthews was postponed. He is competent at his job, which probably played a role in the decision. However, Samantha was dismissed for disciplinary reasons, and her path to becoming the next president was closed, leading to her departure from the company. I was surprised to hear disciplinary dismissal regarding this incident, but it turned out that a company-wide inquiry revealed Samantha's arrogant behavior. She was found to have been pushing her work onto others, being a habitual offender of tardiness and absence without leave. Furthermore, she was discovered to have made personal purchases under the guise of business expenses, leveraging her status as the president's daughter. President Matthews was completely unaware and could only hang his head in disappointment upon realizing just how problematic his daughter had been. Samantha, having to repay the misused funds, ended up in debt and was disowned by President Matthews. She is now juggling multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. President Matthews hoped the hardships would turn her into a decent person, but given how deep-rooted her issues were, that might be difficult. As usual, I've been keeping busy every day. I'm currently in the midst of developing a new product and exploring various possibilities. Amidst all that hustle and bustle, some joyful news reached me. Emily's pregnancy has been confirmed. I was overjoyed, but even more so were my uncle and Emily's grandfather, both shedding tears of happiness. The thought of our family growing fills me with excitement. I'm more motivated than ever to work hard and provide for my family every day.